so we should be live now, right?
We're live.
All right, guys, so we're live again. We are going to add Brentt in because of the way that Facebook Live feature works. When we are live, when we go to add somebody in, they can't use anything but an iPhone. It's not set up for Droid. It's not set up for Mac or anything else, unless you're using some open broadcast software or something. So we're actually going to try to. So just bear with us for a minute, and we should have Brentt on. On a side note, I appreciate y'all bearing with me. This is the reason that 90% of people do not do Facebook Live, because they have a fear of a technical difficulty or a situation or something like that. Luckily, the same thing that I was telling Brentt a minute ago. Love all you guys and y'all love us. So, and I know that y'all can't wait to hear from Brentt. So.
Still letting go through. I'm waiting to see if he pops up. See, it'll come up there that he added.
Brentt, if you can hear me, I just clicked approve, so it's showing adding right now. So if it's showing adding and continues to show adding, but it's not actually pulling them up, it's waiting on a response from their end.
And okay. The whole rotate thing he was talking about.
Appreciate you guys being patient. Brentt, we're adding you again right now. Give me just 2 seconds and we'll bring Brentt on. It shows 2 seconds.
Brett says won't let him on.
It's got to be his reception. That's the only solution. Hey, Brent, we got you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. So while we're not on, so while we can't obviously pull you on Facebook Live, can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clear as a bell. I'm sorry about that. What happens is I get a button saying go live, and I click it. Maybe somebody knows what I'm doing wrong, but it won't let me in. Just put up a picture of Brad in a space, and we'll pretend it's me.
Well, hey, Alfonso or Laura, or one of y'all, if you can, let me know in the comments if you can hear Brent clearly. You know, for technical difficulties, what we're going to do is actually have him in on speakerphone. So if you can, let me know if you can hear him clearly. Again, well, in a totally different fashion, but welcome. We appreciate you being on, Brent. I know it's kind of, after we've been talking over the last couple of days, it was a little bit short notice, but you know, kind of like we talked about with everything that you have going on and everything, there was no way I wanted to wait before we, you know, let the proverbial softball community, you know exactly what's going on and know how to keep up with you. So kind of give us a little bit of insight as to what's new and what's going on. And everybody probably, you know, if they haven't read the article, if they go to X-Ray and Softball or go on Facebook or the website, they'll see the article. But kind of fill us in on what's going on.
Well, first of all, appreciate it, Robbie. Can you just confirm people can hear me? I mean, this is one of those.
Yeah, we're solid there. Everybody can hear you clear.
Great. Well, that might not be a good thing, but we'll see. Yeah, thank you for letting me be here. You know, you've been great to me through my career. As you said, we've been able to create a new company, a new website, extrainningsoftball.com, and the focus is going to be primarily allocated on club, high school, youth age. I've had probably about 15 years plus in that area, and you know, I've been playing softball and had an opportunity to do things where I got to talk to event directors and set up events, and that was fun. And you know, got to do everything from club golf, or from PGS Nationals on the club side, to JO Cup, to Triple Crown, and also got to do some major college stuff, American Nether, and some other stuff like that. So that was something I did, but it took me away from interacting on a day-to-day basis with the people that I really like to connect with, and that was players and parents and all of those people. So now we can get back to what we like to do, human interest stories, recruiting. You know, I always say one of my favorite things to do is when a girl commits to talk about it, tell the story, how it happened, and we just get to celebrate that happy experience. You know, I was joking, it's like the second most important decision she'll make after who she's going to marry. Well, college though too is going to take where your friends and everybody is like that. So
That's awesome. What?
Yeah.
And that's it, and that's the, you can hear it in your voice. That's, the same thing I tell people, whenever they're reading some of your stuff, and whenever they see, that you're always out and about, and they ask, he just looks like he's always having fun. The passion kind of, for lack of a better reference, it oozes off of you, and so, and even that live feed right now, you can hear it in your voice. It is same thing that I tell people about scouting, and me hitting the road, going here, going there. You don't really feel like you're working if you're enjoying what you're doing, and that's what everybody has picked up on about you. And if you've never heard it before, then well, now you have. So.
Wow. I remember, I say, when did this change? A lot of people reached out and said, hey, wish you the best, and, congratulations and all that. And I said, this is like a living village. I mean, it looks like I'm dead, but I get to hear all these great things from people. So thank you. It's funny you say that, because there have been many times where I go to an event, let's say it's a national championship, and I know it's going to be a 16-hour day, and it's going to be for 3 days or 4 days. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We've seen each other in America. And I'm going to be here from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. And you dread it, honestly. I mean, there's travel to the event, and then you have a long day. But what happens is, you probably feel the same way. You get to the event, you take 5 feet, you see somebody it's like, hey, good to catch up with you. How you doing? What's the latest? You take another 5 feet, and they're suing Quest. You're not taking another 10 feet. And it just, I get to see parents and players, and, I remember Mary Dutter last year where I got to see Jenna Lilly and her mom, Debbie, and it was just like catching up when she was playing the club and, for the Beverly Bandits. That's what makes it fun. That's what you hear passion in my voice and enthusiasm. It's because of the people. It's because we are in a position to help people realize their dreams. And not that I'm doing it, but the girls are doing it, but we just get to tell the story. But we get to be part of the process and follow it, and oftentimes sharing the enthusiasm and joy that goes with it. So, yeah, I love what I do because the people make it really rewarding.
Exactly. You just hit the nail on the head. And it's oddly enough that we're in, different aspects of the quote-unquote industry or of the softball world, but everything you said hits home with me. Everything, right nail on the head. One of the messages I just got, which is a very, very, very good starting question, I guess you'd say, with EI or with extra inning softball, what can people expect? What can people expect from it? Is there anything different about it?
That's a good question. I think, I can only speak from what I've done in the past and what I want to do. What we want to do is we want to get a ton of content. And I want the content to be really directed from the community. We want to tell stories. We want to share the good times. We want to, do the rankings and ratings. I'm known for doing the Hot 100s, which will now be the Extra Elite 100s. I've done that from the 2014 class to the 21, and we'll be doing the 22 shortly. We're going to be doing a lot of that. I want to take that even more in depth. I want to tell more stories. I had a club coach call me today and say, Brentt, would you be interested in doing our daughter program? And here's why we're unique and different. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he said, we got video and we have colleges that work out of our facility. I'm like, yeah, it's great. Yeah. The great thing is we just want to share and make this feel like it's everybody's. One of the things I've been in, I don't want to say how long I've been in the media side, but one of the first things I've learned is the key to success is if you reflect like a mirror what the market wants, then you're going to be successful. And don't tell people what they should be following or doing. Listen to them. What kind of content do they want? So how are we going to be different? We're going to cover recruiting a lot. We're going to tell human interest stories. We did one yesterday, Rob. I don't know if you had a chance to read it.
Yeah.
This girl that was killed in Georgia in 2016 and on the team. Every game, at that season after she was killed in her car, put her shoes on second base, and this team went on to win the state championship in Georgia. That human interest, that drama. I'm editing it last night, and I'm wipe their winning tears. That's the kind of stuff I want to do. Not the tragedy or staff, but the stuff that resonates, that makes us feel like we're family in the softball community. We share in the good times, and the girl commits, and how did it happen? We're in the coach's office. Sometimes I get chills. I hear about, the parents are crying, and the coaches are crying, and everyone's hugging. That's the jubilant stuff. But sometimes we have to talk about topical issues. One issue we're going to be talking about coming up in the near future is teen suicide. We had a tragic loss out here in California where I'm located. A girl named Emma who played in the Backbusters organization. And she would be probably a top 100 player in her class. And this poor, sweet girl felt that their only option was to take their life. And that's not acceptable. And we've got to change that as a softball community, or do the best we can. We can't change everything, but we can certainly raise issues and make it, something. And I know that Sue Inquist, Mike Stitt, and Tony Rico, and Jen Schroeder, and other people are kind of forming a panel to face this and talk about this. And, I hope that we can be a part of it. So the long-winded answer is we want to talk about the sport. We want to talk about topical issues, some serious, some fun. We're putting up today there's some people within our organization that wrote a poem about softball. They love the softball. They were coming about Valentine's Day love poem towards the sport. Sometimes it's lighthearted, sometimes it's more serious, but sometimes it's newsworthy, sometimes it's breaking news. As you know, we broke the story a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the 11-year-old that we met. So, we get to share some of that breaking news. I appreciate, a mom that I got close to was Morgan Flores, the catcher for Washington. She unfortunately blew out her knee, and the mom reached out and said, "Hey, I just want you to know this." And I said, "Can I go pop up with this?" And she said, "Yes." So it's the relationships, it's the news, that's what I want to do. If people have a heartwarming story or something that they feel is important for all of us to know, I want to be able to tell that story.
Absolutely. No, and it sounds a little bit. And correct me if I'm hopefully I'm not overstepping, but correct me if I'm wrong. But it sounds like there will be a much larger focus on not just individual pieces, but really telling the story of teams, telling the story of kids, and making sure that it's not just focused in specific areas. It sounds like the organization that there's certain, we all know there's certain states in the U.S. that they're not the first to pop up in your head when you think of softball, but you and I both know there have been some freakishly talented kids all of a sudden pop up out there. It sounds like that's a huge target of it. Am I reading that correctly? You want to know, and you want to be able to let everybody else know about the things and kids and organizations and situations. You want to bring light to those things that otherwise probably won't get a light shined on.
Yeah, that's an absolutely great point. My criteria is if I look at something, I go with other people interested in this. And a great example is like last night, or actually this morning, we posted in our recruiting roundup about Iowa Premier. I don't know if you know this, or if the general public knows this, but Iowa, they play their high school ball late into the summer.
Yeah.
So Iowa players are at a big disadvantage because they can't play club and play in June, sometimes July. They get a really late start. The Iowa Premier Gold, led by Greg Dingle, they finished 2 years ago. They won the platinum level PGF. It was 1800. And Kendall Beckman, the fantastic All-American catcher of Minnesota, was one of the key components on that team. So that's an interesting story. How Iowa players, how does the state of Iowa so far behind in that sense? How are they able to be competitive? And last night, we reported on, just a couple days ago, or within the last day or two, they had a girl commit to Auburn. So it's just great to see, like you said, if there's a girl comes from New Mexico, right, we want to do a story on it. I'm working on a story. Presley Kahn, who plays for the Mercado A's, she's a powerlifter. She's committed to LSU, one of the top girls in her class. She's a freaking powerlifter. And we talked and worked on the story on how does weightlifting help you? Does it hurt you? Does it help you? And the interesting thing thing she said, kind of spoiler alert on my own story, but she said it makes me mentally tougher. And so that's the kind of thing that's interesting. You know, and I think people want to know, you know, how does an athlete, like I did someone in Langston, you know, committed to Georgia, and you know, just what do you eat for breakfast? Oh, wow, you got to the end of the rainbow. You know, what do you do? What training do you do? What makes you mentally, academically, socially able to handle this? And you know, sometimes that stories when I just say, you know, I basically have to give up my social life. All my friends are going to the mall on the weekends, I'm in the cages. But it's worth it for me because I know what I want to accomplish. So that's really, you know, I think I'm excited about that because these athletes are working their butts off. I remember one of the first stories I did, I mentioned Jenna Woodley. She and her mom would drive every weekend from Cleveland to Chicago, 8 hours one way, would train with the Beverly Pandas, practice with them, stay the night, they had family in there, and then they would drive back every weekend. And football players complaining if they have to get on the bus and go across now 15 minutes to play rival. You know, these girls are literally traveling across state lines to get the best training, the best, you know, competition. So, yeah, you're right, Robbie. I mean, I want to tell their story. I want to honor these girls. And you know, we do it through rankings, we do it through stories, we do it through video, we do it any way we can. We just want to bring the softball community. And what would be cool, and it's fun for me, is now I watch the other series go, yeah. I remember talking to her. You know, I watched her hit home run in a game. It's just great. It's almost like these human shoulders. I'm so looking to life. It's great. Some of these, you know, are now being successful. They're going into grad school, becoming doctors, and you just feel like this is awesome. You know, these girls are smart, articulate, you know, athletic, and it's great to be part of telling their stories.
Oh yeah. Well, and of course, you know, scouting for years, you know, it was intriguing to me when I discovered everything about Iowa, you know, and the odd thing is, yes, you know, everything is totally rearranged there, but those girls basically have to decide between high school and travel. And, you know, a lot of times in the beginning of my scouting, whenever I would go to, you know, tournaments or showcases up there in order to scout certain kids, it intrigued the heck out of me that there were, you know, if there were 50 teams, 25 were high schools and 25 were travel teams, you know, and that's, you know, like one of the best middle infielders I've ever had, Sam Kane, a kid out of the Iowa Blitz organization, and she's at Marshall University right now. She was one of my 17s that, you know, I think it was 2015 when I saw her, and I went up there, and, you know, and like right now, one of the best in my 22 class, Bailey Dawson. You know, and I don't know if you were at the Faster to First down in Texas. You were down there, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, that kid, you know, she came down there to the Faster to First in Texas, where it's just, again, another kid from the Blitz organization with Joe Carter, but just gifted physically. You know, it just moves unbelievably. And, you know, here it is, you know, now, you know, being a 22, she's getting ready to have to make that decision. You know, of course, with her, it's pretty clear cut and dry what she's going to do, but you know, having to decide between, do I want to play with all my best friends from school, or do I want to chase a dream? So you talk about making sacrifices. You know, not being able to play with your high school team. You know, not being able to play with your best friends from, you know, that you see every day.
Yeah, that's hard. You know, I'm a parent that had a daughter play club softball, and you know, you basically give up your weekends. You know, and sometimes more. And it is a sacrifice, and that's why, as a parent, I recognize and honor not just the kids, but the parents putting in all this time and effort. And, you know, sometimes you hear things like, you know, these long journeys, these drives, I get to be alone with my child and have quality time. And that's exactly the right way to look at it. But it's still, you know, it's funny, I was speaking at a Faster and I was talking about how, you know, I admire your parents. I mean, I understand that it costs $67,000 a year to be in club, you know, having a club player with equipment, training, and travel and dues. And then some lady afterwards walks up without saying her hands on a sheet of paper and says $10,000. She totaled it up, said, "Brent, you're off a little bit. It's more than that." And I guess it varies. Maybe in California, we don't have travel as much. It might be lower in some places in the country. Maybe you have to travel to get to some of the higher, more bigger events, I guess. But I just think that it's interesting. The whole process is interesting. The whole recruiting journey is interesting. I've always, and people don't know this about me, but I started off on the football side, and I love the football recruiting process because that's where I was first exposed to it. Because football was my sport. But it's a cat and mouse game, right? It's like this is college like this player, this is player like this college, and who else is this player looking at? Who's off the field? And it's same softball. Softball's even more intriguing if you were, because they've got to allocate dollars, they're paying partial scholarships, and one time said, Brentt, what is your story of why in softball we have to have partial scholarships? Where like girls basketball, they get full scholarships. Yeah. You know what I mean per play. Yeah. It's a good point. Like I said, in softball, we talked about this, and I was at ESPN, softball was the third biggest sport they had after college football and bowl games, and then men's basketball and NCAA March Madness. College World Series got higher rankings, TV ratings than NHL hockey playoffs. Yeah. It's a good sport, so why do we get less money than some other sports that don't draw like it does?
Oh yeah. The head count sports definitely, and hopefully headquarters doesn't hate me for saying this, but the head count sports definitely get a little bit of favoritism when it comes to all that. It's hard for some of the girls and some of the people to accept the fact that if you're looking at 25 kids on a roster, but your Division I program is allowed 12, making the assumption they're fully funded. Inevitably, even if it was perfectly, in a perfect world, every one of those kids is still only getting 50%. And so, in terms of like with extra inning, it's kind of clear where the direction is going, and kind of like I was telling you a couple of days ago, the softball community not only obviously likes you, but they love the direction you take with things, and they love the amount of dedication that you put into the things that you're doing. So in terms of with extra innings and moving forward, what is the softball community? When I say softball community, obviously I'm talking about, prospects, travel coaches, the high school coaches, possibly even, the college coaches. What do they need to do? How do they get more involved with extra innings?
Great question. Extra innings softball is the site. You'll see, we have an info, extrainningsoftball.com. Basically, just write us. Just let us know if you have a good story idea. If you have a player, if there's something of note, we will do a good job of kind of previewing. Hey, we're coming up with this article. One of the things that I love is the participatory aspect of the sport. For example, I want to do something for Father's Day, Mother's Day. Get athletes. Tell us what your father means to you, or tell us what you mean to your mom means to you. And people just follow the site, and I get asked quite often, is going to be a preview site? But yeah, there's going to be stuff. I'm going to pay the bills. We're not going to be outrageous. It's probably going to be like $15 a month, maybe $36 for 3 months, and maybe like $110 for a year. But we'll make it reasonable. We're going to give you so much content that I love how I figured out when I was prior to Flow that it ended up being like 4 cents an article. So it was a good cost of make 2 cents. But if people want to get involved, just like on this early recruiting we put, let us know what you think about it. And when we get opinions and contributions from the community, we'll listen, we'll use them. And so I'm excited now on the 2020 Elite 100 that we're going to be working on. We're getting a lot of submissions. Well, every girl make the top 100 done. But will they probably make the top 500? Very likely. Because if you're just passionate, whoever's representing you is saying that you are working your butt off. You can probably play somewhere. I don't know if it's Alabama or UCLA, but it's probably somewhere. So it's just it's a case of just tell us what you want, email us, keep in contact, and we will, what that I think I've been trying to do with throughout my career is responding and letting people know, hey, I appreciate your interest in us. We're interested in you.
Absolutely. Well, and you kind of led me into the next thing where, of course, I know it's not a topic you want to dive too far into, but lack of a better reference, being on the front lines of softball recruiting. What's your opinion on what's going on right now with I know you've heard just as long as I've heard where, people were, had their opinions about early recruiting and, typically, you found out before everybody else did on, almost every single time. Now with the proposal, and as you see just as much as I do, everybody's freaking out. There's 75 million opinions out there, and there's so thus far I've really only seen one post, that was accurate. So what's your opinion on with what's going on in terms of, obviously you and I both know it's going to get approved in April. Everybody needs to start preparing and educating themselves. What's your opinion? What's your feelings?
Things are long. There's one thing I'm going to disagree with. What a rude guest. I'm not 100% sure it is going to be approved. I think it might get watered down. At first it was coming out that coaches could interact or do things from September 1st to the junior year. Then another proposal September 1st to the sophomore year. Now I'm hearing those people pushing back. And I'll tell you, you mentioned two things. One of them is everyone's freaking out. Yeah. My opinion is it's overblown. I mean, not that early recruiting isn't an issue. It is. But it's very, very rare that a freakish athlete who's a 7th grader, there's been one 6th grader.
Yeah.
It's like saying, I have a real legitimate chance to win the lottery. Well, no, I really don't. But, I'd like to think, but we read and we follow the people that do, but, they're one in 8 gazillion.
Mm-hmm.
There is very few Mia Williams. Mia Williams was the first 7th grader headed to Florida. But it makes sense. Her parents, Judy Williams, one chocolate. Her dad was an NBA player, 6'2". He's a great athlete from West Virginia. The mom, Danica, ran track at Florida. That's where they met. And she went to Olympic trials. So there's pretty darn good DNA. And she's a pretty good athlete. And so she did from Florida. Her parents went to Florida. Why wouldn't you want to go to Florida? Why is everyone screaming the sky is falling when this girl goes there? Now, okay, a 6th grader. That's weird. But it's a 6th grader.
Yeah.
So the sport has not digressed. The sport is growing. I'm not saying early recruiting isn't a problem. It's a problem when a 13-year-old feels, and parents feel pressure that they have to make a decision by next Tuesday or they're going to lose an opportunity to go to a Power 5 school. That's wrong. I'm not saying I'm for early recruiting. I'm just saying I think people are just freaking out, and I'm not saying either that we should put some type of controls or boundaries in it. The other thing, and the reason I go to it might get watered down is I think there could be problems that people aren't anticipating. For example, if let's say the junior September 1 thing would happen, what's going to happen to camps for the middle tier schools?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm just going to pick out, I'm not picking on, but let's say an Appalachian State or a UTEP or New Mexico or a school like that, a Marshall. Do you think kids are going to want to go to their camps when they want to actually go on as freshman and sophomore up until their junior year to Florida, to Florida State, to Alabama, UCLA, because they want to try to win a scholarship and again win the lottery? Do you think that what's going to happen to these camps and these other schools? I know a lot of mid-tier coaches have told me they're not. They like early recruiting, and I'll tell you why. It filters out. Schools really aren't interested in them.
Yeah.
It allows the elite of the elite. It's kind of like the baseball draft, right?
Mm.
You can recruit too well in baseball as a college coach because your whole class can be drafted in the first 2 rounds and you come out. So not everybody is floored. These learning fast like legislate rules. All I'm saying is there might be ramifications that people haven't anticipated.
Yeah.
And I know, I did an interview with Pat Gass one time where she said, I don't like recruiting. Nobody likes, you're offering money to a 13, 14-year-old, you don't know. But she said, if I don't do it, Tim Walton's going to do it. Ralph Weaver's going to do it. Pat Murphy's going to do it. So it's been kind of this necessary evil. So, I think we just got to catch our breath and go, okay, it's a good idea to put some values in place. Some of it will probably happen. I was talking yesterday, I don't remember who it was, talked to a million people, but they were saying everyone jumped on the little cross.
Yeah.
I don't know, Robbie, were you at the NFCA convention?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Everyone was like, lacrosse. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they made the point, well, we're not on lacrosse. There were reasons, and there was some corruptions and some things in lacrosse that made sense for them to put the role in. And so if you try to duplicate a different sport, be careful, because you might get some pushback or some ramifications that you hadn't anticipated. And that's all I'm saying is, yes, we don't want girls to have to feel pressured at 12 and 13 to come in. And we don't want coaches. And the sad thing is right now, is there are some late bloomers. There are girls who are sophomores who are just starting to hit their stride. And, they're just scared to death because they're seeing 6th and 7th graders and they're hearing the money's all gone. And this is one thing I'll say. The money will not be gone. If you're good enough, they will find a way to get you in.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah, like me and you've talked about before, where it turns around and blows people's minds when, do I have a 7th grader? Do I have several 8th graders? Yes. But at the same time, when I turn around and find that late junior and even a couple of different times, a senior, you and I both know right now there's almost a handful of Power 5 schools that are still looking for an 18 pitcher. So everybody who's freaking out and thinking, I didn't get started early enough and this, that, and the other, I think it's kind of like, and I'm sure you've seen it, but because he's posted about it a lot of times, but like Kyle Lim over at UAM was talking about, you're putting restrictions on 99.5% based on the 0.5%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's the part that, me personally, I like early recruiting. And I'm sure, I know me and you've talked about it before. I would much rather start with a kid, 8th grade, absolutely, 7th grade. I still, they've got to not only be physically prepared, they've got to be mentally prepared. But I like the fact that for a couple of different reasons, but they have enough time for a couple of hiccups. Whereas, right now, if it is, that sophomore, that junior, that is an elite kid, and, that Power 5 school wants her to come on a visit this weekend, but it's her best friend's birthday party, she has zero choice, if she does not go, and so there ends up being a lot more pressure, no matter what we try to do at that point. But it's interesting to see, on one hand, up to this conversation, I actually 100% believed it was going to pass. But now, hearing your perspective, it really does kind of make me wonder. I could see it, as we've seen over the years, where everybody's gung ho on something, but there's such a big uproar and so many different views that all of a sudden come about that there's too many possibilities for it to go south, and it ends up not happening.
Yeah, again, I compare it to taxes. Everybody wants taxes changed, but when it impacts you, then you don't necessarily want the taxes changed. It's kind of like that in early recruiting. I was speaking in front of a group, and I said, how many people do not like early recruiting? Every hand went up. I go, okay, let's say your daughter, and there's a range of ages, from like 6th graders to probably 10th graders, 11 years ago. How many of you, if your daughter was 13 in Florida offered a scholarship, would turn that down? Every hand went down. I was like, oh, okay, well, everybody hates early recruiting unless if you do benefit from it. And again, I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm just saying we've got to be careful that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm not saying that it's not going to pass. Is it 100% going to pass? I don't know. Is it 0? I don't know. Is it 50%? I would assume there are going to be things just like in our government that don't, the bills get watered down or changed or things evolve. But here's another concern I've heard, and I've heard some club coaches or college coaches say, "Nah, I don't think it's a problem," but I've heard people say it's a problem. This might put, if a college coach can't talk to a kid or a parent, who's he going to talk to? Probably who's he going to talk to? The club coach, right? Will the club coach have more power? Will this make it, where the club coach, kind of dictates things and maybe not in a good way? Possibly. It's a concern. I'm not going to say exactly like I said. Some people think it could happen. Some people think it might not happen. Here's another, situation. What happens if the girl, at college can't talk to kids junior year, September 1, and all of a sudden, all these kids, they start talking to these kids, and again, this is a what if, I'm not saying this is a what if. And all of a sudden in September, kids start getting scholarship offers and it's kids in musical chairs, and some kids come in, and kids that were thinking that they were going to go to an SEC school, all of a sudden they're shut out. They're out. They're not getting the offers. And then it becomes a mad rush to fine. I got to go to a black school, or I got to go to an athletic 10 school, or I got to find something. And then kids get desperate, and then there's this mad scramble because all the chips are falling and everything's filtering down, and it's musical chairs and all a lot of the kids that didn't come in early are all of a sudden starting to commit in September of their junior year. Is that going to happen? I don't know. It's a possibility. It's a scenario. That's what I'm saying. I think cooler heads now are prevailing and saying, well, what are the contingency plans? What could happen? If you put a gun in my head and said, Brent, you need to give me an opinion what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is they're going to make it, this is what I would think would be smart, to make it September 1st of the sophomore year. That gives everybody more time. You did not put any pressure on an 8th grader. It allows the process to develop a little more. So that's, again, that's my opinion is, I'm hearing three things. Nothing sophomore year, junior year. And then nothing could making a choice by not making a choice is always a possibility in life. But we'll see. We'll see. I just go back to our original statement. I think it's overblown in many respects. And you nailed it down like 99.5% doesn't impact. But the sad thing is everyone gets scared thinking, oh my gosh, 6th grade going into Florida, there's no more money left. No, it's not true. 10 will find, Coach Walton will find money. They'll find, if there's a great player that emerges, if Brittany Barnhill can commit, in her senior year, then Brittany Barnhill emerges as a junior, which will happen, then they'll find a way. There's always a way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, and kind of like one of the coaches I was talking to this morning, he said it better. You and I both know that softball is one of the few sports where, not pointing out any other sports and being negative about them, but softball is one of those sports where even if it is an in-conference rival, softball coaches and the softball community typically help each other. Like, it blew my mind, the coach I was talking to this morning, SEC coach, and he was talking about, he went and watched the practice of one of the other SEC coaches to watch how he worked with his slackers. And it's like, that's an in-conference rival, but he's, and he said, Robbie said, it's things like that just the softball community has that other people don't have, other sports don't have. It's kind of like We Are Marshall, where Matthew McConaughey wants to go down to West Virginia and I can't recall his name, but get him to show him the beer, and everybody thinks he's crazy. That's kind of, that's our rival. They're not going to help you. But the softball community, as you see it in FCA and things like that, they're trying to help each other. And that was the point he was making this morning when I was talking to him. Was he said the thing that people are forgetting about is that softball community, the softball recruiting and early recruiting has gotten better, competition. But what they're forgetting about is this is all a result of the game of softball and the popularity of softball growing exponentially over the last 5 years. And, you know, that's the bad thing is everybody, like you said, unless it's working out for their daughter, you know, they're against early recruiting. And they're against all, you know, I mean, you and I both know in previous articles, if you broke a story about an early commit, you have people try to accuse you of, oh, you're contributing to it. You know, if it's storming outside and I go walk into the building and tell people that it's storming, I didn't make it rain, I just informed you, you know.
I think you made it rain. I think it's your fault. You know, I've actually had this conversation with college coaches, you know, about the Hot 100 when I was doing it now, you know, it's the extra early 100 is this feeding the beast? Am I creating a monster? Am I adding to the problem? You know, am I giving these girls big heads? Am I creating more pressure on them? Because if a girl's the number one girl, and I've asked them, like Kinsey Hansen, you know, these girls are, you know, hey, you're number one, but are you okay with that? Because if you walk in the field, people are going to point to you and go, that's the number one rated girl in the country.
Yeah.
And the college coach laughed and he said, Brentt, do you not think when the player or the parent or the coach sees me leaning over the chain link fence to watch this girl, knowing that there's dollars on the line, you don't think that's pressure?
Yeah.
Guess you're right.
Yeah.
I guess my pressure is not as bad. You know, it's one thing to, you know, to have that media attention and hopefully be honored. And what I love about girls sports is I was more often than not I get the right answer. I go, is that stuff that have pressure? And they said typically, no, it's going to make me work harder because I know people are going to be gunning for me and I'm up to the challenge. That's what I love about softball. Love that attitude.
Yeah.
So.
Well, aside from that, I want to remind everybody real quick. I know I put the links. Those of y'all that have seen it, I did go ahead and put the website in the comments, and I did go ahead and put the info at Extra Inning Softball. Brentt, anything else to? I guess the gist that I want to make sure that they get across is the question that I got a lot the minute that people knew you were going to be on was, how do we get our name in front of Brentt? How do we make sure Brentt knows who we are? Kind of like I've explained to them, it doesn't guarantee anything, but the more you know, the more you can make decisions on things later. And so,
education and information is well, the first step is you write a check for $1,000. Boys, college scholar, no. That's a joke. Now, like we said, info at extrainningsoftball.com. And just, write me. I say everything. You're going to laugh when I say this. I have a folder going back 3 years that I started when I was with Flow. And it's my Outlook folder. It's got 23,597 messages. Now I categorize them. I have them by 2018 players, 2019 players. But I say anyways, right? Because I can pull up, a date or something. I got everything, searchable. So write me. It doesn't mean I'm not always going to use it, but if you write me, I will keep it. You might write me about a 2023 athlete. I'll put it in the 2023 folder. But if you want to get your name in front, or your player's name, or your team's name, or you have a story, I can't write about it if I don't know about it. So go ahead and send it info at extrainningsoftball.com. We've got a great team, and I'm excited because everyone's enthusiastic about. I love our tagline. We exist to grow the game. That's what we're about. Telling stories, growing the game, and helping everybody enjoy the journey, and honoring the athletes especially. And we like you, Robbie, and the club coaches, certain parents. Everybody that's part of this, allowing these girls to pursue dreams, and that's what's fun about it.
Absolutely. Well, Brentt, I definitely appreciate you being on, and we'll hopefully figure out the technical stuff later on, figure out what's going on. Guys, in kind of like Brentt said, if you have a story or you want your kid or your team or whatever the case is, email it to info@extrainningsoftball.com, and it's actually in the comments right now. But if you're like me, you keep up with 75% of your stuff in social media. So go to their Facebook page, like their page so it's showing up in your newsfeed. Go to the Go to their Instagram. You know, make sure that you're keeping up. If you want to keep up with what's going on with them and you want to make sure that you know how to get to them when you have a story or something about your kid you want to know is newsworthy, get it over to Brentt. Brentt, I appreciate you being on, man. You know, we worked it out, figured it out, and obviously we'll probably see you, you know, several times over the next couple of weeks at the fields.
You bet. That's what makes it fun is when we get to reunite, connect, you know, the fields out with following athletes club. So.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I appreciate it, Brentt, and look forward to having you back on the show.
Sounds good. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, thanks. And guys, just a reminder real quick before we close out, we have moved the date. So next Wednesday, February 21st, 6:30 p.m. Central, we do have a special guest that is going to surprise you, and the things that they're going to talk about are going to surprise you, educate you, humor you. But from now on, we will be the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 6:30 p.m. Central. I appreciate y'all being on, and I will see y'all at the next tournament.